Hello everyone, my name is David. Today we are going to take a look at another real story with you. Today's story is about Hiramandi, a place once known as the Diamond Market, later called the Royal Neighborhood, and at times referred to as the Neighborhood of Grace, a place of literature, poetry, refined conversation, and cultured living. It was the kind of neighborhood where even royal families used to send their princes to learn proper etiquette, how to talk in society, how to carry themselves, how to behave in gatherings. All of this. This story is about that very Hiramandi, a small area, a tiny neighborhood in Lahore. And even today, Hiramandi still exists there. And coincidentally, this is one of the world's oldest professions that has been going on for centuries, prostitution, which still exists there today. However, when India and Pakistan were partitioned and Pakistan became a new country, many people frowned upon Hiramandi. Respectable people called it a stain on their city and demanded it be removed. But those same people would secretly head toward Hiramandi under the cover of night. Downstairs of Hiramandi, there are all kinds of shops, selling various musical instruments, food stalls, and eateries. But as evening falls, those shops shut down, and a different kind of marketplace comes alive. Back in Emperor Akbar's era, when India and Pakistan were one before partition, Lahore was a significant city, especially in terms of trade. During that time, the royal Mughal family lived in a particular area, which came to be known as the Royal Neighborhood. This entire area of Lahore became famous by the name Royal Neighborhood. Within this royal area, there was one particular section, what you might call a kotha, a traditional performance house. Back in those days, classical dance performances, known as mudra, were held there. Mudra is a legacy of the Mughals, a distinct form of dance and art. Back then, it wasn't viewed in a negative light. Instead, it was considered a refined art form, and the women who lived in those places and performed mudra saw themselves as artists. They were highly respected. During the Mughal era, even princes were sent to these establishments to learn about art and culture. Poetry and literature were taught there, as well as how to write and speak with grace. These places were considered hubs of etiquette and refinement, not just royal neighborhoods, but cultural centers. During the Mughal period, these places held great prestige and were seen as respectable institutions. But then, later, it is said that Ahmad Shah Abdali came and attacked this area. He brought with him many Uzbek and Afghan women and settled them right here in the royal neighborhood. Gradually, royal neighborhood began to be known as Hiramandi. That's when prostitution started taking place here. Eventually, all the women and people of Hiramandi were forced onto the path of prostitution. Originally, their real art was mudra, dance, classical Indian dance, especially Kathak, for which Hiramandi was once famous. In those days, grand gatherings used to be held there specifically for these performances. But when the British arrived, they completely changed the identity of Hiramandi. It eventually turned into just another red light area. Then in 1947, the British left, and India and Pakistan became two separate countries. Hiramandi's fate was the same even back then. But the real story is something else. It is said that once upon a time, Hiramandi in Lahore was home to an incredibly beautiful courtesan. People were crazy about her performances. Nobles, wealthy families, and influential people would come to Hiramandi specifically to watch this one stunning girl perform. Her name was Nigo, though her real name was Nargis. Everyone lovingly called her Nigo. This was the era of Nigo, and it was because of her that Hiramandi was so well known. People were crazy about her beauty, her charm, and her dance. In a way, the entire Hiramandi thrived because of Nigo. It was vibrant and full of life. Everything revolved around her during that time. This was also the period when films had just started being made in India. In fact, the first film was made in 1913 by Dadasaheb Phalke. But back then, no woman or girl was willing to act in films. Back then, working in films was considered a very bad thing, so even the role of the heroine used to be played by men dressed in women's clothes, and they were presented as female characters that way. It was really difficult to find actresses. That's when culture began in both India and Pakistan. Women from good families wouldn't work in films. Today, as you can see, getting a role in movies isn't seen the same way anymore. But back then, people would turn to the red light areas for heroines. Film directors and producers thought that maybe people from here could work. And there were many who had worked in Hindustani films from Heera Mandi. Many from Heera Mandi had worked in Pakistan, and among them was Nargis, also known as Nigo, whose beauty, charm, and dance had all of Lahore captivated. At that time, there was a producer there who was looking for a heroine, but no heroine was willing to work. So one day the producer came to Heera Mandi and saw the place where Nigo used to perform dance and mudra shows. It always had the biggest crowd. So when they wondered why there was such a large crowd, they decided to become part of that crowd themselves and went to the venue. After that, they watched the mudra. When they saw Nargis perform, they were deeply impressed by her beauty, her charm, and her dance. They immediately decided to cast her in their next film. After that, they spoke to Nigo, who also wanted to leave Heera Mandi. She agreed right away. The first film Nargis got in 1964 was called Ishrat. And in this film, she had a full dance sequence. She became very famous in Pakistan. After that, a series of films started and she worked in about 80 to 100 movies. She was a courtesan from Heera Mandi, and most of the films included dance items featuring her. After entering the film industry, her popularity soared and she became a big star. Life was going quite well for her. Meanwhile, the 1970s arrived. There was a producer named Khwaja Mazhar, a big name in Pakistani films. He had watched many of her movies. One day he went to Nargis and said he wanted to cast her in his film called Kasu. She was cast, and during the shooting of the film, love blossomed between Mazhar and Nargis. This was also like a movie story, but the real story outside the screen was that when they fell in love, one day Khwaja Mazhar proposed to Nargis saying, "I love you and I want to marry you." Nargis felt that this would help her shed the label of being a courtesan from Heera Mandi. A decent man, respected in his society, was ready to make her his wife. After that, the two got married, although both their families were against the marriage. Khwaja Mazhar's family opposed it because she was a courtesan, and Nigo's family opposed it because her parents, who lived in Heera Mandi, believed that if Nigo got married and moved into a respectable life and world, then how would they survive? They depended on their daughter's earnings, so it was a big hardship for them as well. Both families made great efforts to somehow stop this marriage, but Mazhar and Nigo went ahead and got married. At that time, there was a custom, a rule in Heera Mandi, that if a girl from Heera Mandi left the area, got married, or went into another business, the man who took her away had to pay a fixed amount to her parents in Heera Mandi. Only then was the girl considered free, because the relatives in Heera Mandi depended on her. This was a rule. So, when this rule was in place, many attempts were made to stop the marriage, but she was determined to marry. In the end, they used this very rule and law as their reference. They said you both got married and Nigo left, so at least give the compensation that's fixed. Khwaja, who is a prominent director and producer, is also a big man with connections to influential people in society and even the government. He said, "This isn't about all that. She's my wife. Why should I give money for her? I'm not buying her." Because of this, there was a big uproar between both families. The family of Nigo was also upset because they were marrying through Tawaf, but they weren't getting any money. And they kept talking to Nigo again and again. But Nigo felt that if she wanted to live an honest life, then this would have to continue. However, Nigo was happy as invitations kept coming from the diamond market, especially to her mother, asking her to come, but she would refuse. After Nigo, the family's financial situation got really bad because that diamond market's biggest and most valuable diamond was hers. In a way, the diamond market was thriving because of her. Now that's gone. What can they do? This really hurt her parents, especially her mother, who felt that if her daughter came back, their lives would get better again and wealth would come. They tried hard to bring the girl back, but Nigo never returned. In the end, Nigo's mother played a trick. She said, well, she's not coming back on her own, so she sent a message to Nigo. The message said, I'm on my deathbed now. I could die at any moment. I'm seriously ill. My last wish is to see you just once. Show me your face so I can die in peace. Now, Nigo was still a daughter. Her mother had raised her, cared for her, and made her who she was. That message hit her hard. She told her husband, Khwaja Mazar, I just want to see my mother one last time. Who knows if I'll ever get another chance? Her condition is very serious. Khwaja Mazar understood. It was her right as a daughter, so both of them agreed and gave her permission. After several years of marriage, Nigo stepped into Hira Mandi once again. The whole family there was overjoyed, but in reality, her mother was completely fine. She was just pretending to be sick. Then the mother said, just stay for a few days. As soon as I take my last breath and my soul leaves, then you can go. Caught up in emotion, Nigo agreed to stay by her mother's side in Hira Mandi. During this stay, her mother, sisters, and brother all slowly started brainwashing her. They kept telling her that life is not for you. Mazar is not the right man for you. That marriage means nothing. Stay here. Live life on your own terms. You're doing so well in films. Keep doing it from here itself. Days went by. Meanwhile, Mazar kept calling, asking her to return. How is your mother's health? He'd ask. She'd reply, she's better, but still not well enough. He kept calling her to come back, but Nigo's mother kept convincing her to stay. Gradually, the things her mother and siblings were saying started settling in her mind. Her brain was, in a way, completely washed. Now, even when Mazar would call, she'd just say, just a few more days, a little longer. And a lot of time passed like that. Now even Mazar started to feel that something was wrong. He had called her many times, but she didn't come. One day, Khwaja Mazar himself went to Hira Mandi and directly went upstairs to her house. He asked, where is she? He met her mother and said, look, your mother is feeling fine now. Let's go back. This was on January 5th, 1972. On that day, Khwaja Mazar went to the same brothel in Hira Mandi where Nigo's family lived. But Nigo had already been brainwashed by her mother, sister, and everyone around her. She said, no, I don't want to go right now. I want to stay here with my mother for a few more days. He tried every possible way to convince her. He even said, let's take your mother to a good hospital. I can show her to some of the best doctors. I can afford it. Mazar did everything he could in his own way. He said, if she's sick, I'll get her admitted to a hospital. But if she hadn't been brainwashed, maybe she would have agreed. But her mind was on a completely different path now. Khwaja Mazar tried to make her understand in every way. Her husband pleaded with her too, but she didn't listen. In the end, an argument broke out between the two. In a fit of rage, Khwaja Mazar pulled a pistol from his pocket and fired several bullets at once. The initial bullets hit Nigo. After that, 2 musicians present there were shot, and one of them was Nigo's uncle. In total, 4 people were killed on the spot. Chaos broke out immediately. Others arrived and Khwaja Mazar was caught and handed over to the police. The police took him into custody. Nigo succumbed to her injuries and died. She was buried in Lahore. near Hira Mandi, a trial was held against Khwaja Mazar. He was charged with the murder of his own wife, 2 musicians, and his wife's uncle. Following the trial, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. However, within 7 years of being in prison, Khwaja Mazar died due to illness. He too was buried in Lahore. Even today, the story of Khwaja Mazar and Nigo, also known as Nargis, is well known in Lahore's Hira Mandi. Hira Mandi still exists. In the evenings, one can still hear the sound of anklets. During the day, it's a regular marketplace with shops, but by evening, a different kind of bazaar comes alive, a place where respected and well-dressed members of society visit. However, the world's oldest profession has taken a new form in the age of social media, which has affected the trade significantly. The business is no longer thriving, and many of the women involved, courtesans and dancers, are now living in poverty. This was the story of Lahore's Hira Mandi. Thank you for joining us on this journey today. We hope you enjoyed the content and found it valuable.